3 events remain before we crown 2 more champions here at the 2023 Rogue Invitational. It is Sunday at Dell Diamond in Round Rock, Texas, and we are set for Event 7. It is Hulk Hands presented by a Mayhem athlete. Thanks so much for being with us, everybody. I'm Sean Woodland with former Affiliate Cup champ Adrian Conway, and Kiki Dixon is down on the field. And Adrian, tight race on top of the overall standings for the women, and it is delivering as promised.
It is delivering as promised. Listen, we've been battling the weather, but these women have been battling each other event by event. It is close at the very top with Tia-Clair Toomey, 5 points still ahead of Laura Horvath. But then we've got a lot of close races that are going to be taking place as these women are going to be fighting tooth and nail to get onto the podium.
Emma Lawson right now sits in 3rd place. She's hanging on to that final spot on the podium, but as you mentioned, Adrian, look how close it is behind her. Plenty of women are still in contention for that 3rd and final spot on the podium here, and it's still Tia Toomey who leads, but again, that is razor thin. Just 5 points separate Toomey and Horvath. Event 7, it's Hulk Hands. It has changed just a bit because of the weather.
Yeah, we've had to make a little bit of a pivot. We got to make sure that we keep the athletes' safety as a priority. The event is 30 calories on the Echo Bike to start. They're going to advance to 20 double fat belt, ground to overhead, so they can do that anyway, 50 pounds for the women. Then initially it was a 75-foot front rack lunge to the Zeus. This time the change is that they're going to take those fat belts and they're going to do 20 stationary lunges. Then they're going to run, bag, drag up the hill, return on the run, 20 stationary lunges, 20 double fat belt ground overhead another time, and then they will finish on the Echo Bike.
First of 2 heats for the women is getting set to start here, and here are your lane assignments for heat number 1 of Hulk Hands. Paige Semenza is lane 5. She had a great showing last night in the deadlift event, as did Kyra Milligan. And Bethany Flores down in lane number 9. Bethany didn't do a single lift last night, so she does not have that posterior chain fatigue that maybe the other athletes are experiencing right now. And there is Emily Rolfe, someone who's really good at these long, grinding events.
That's right. Emily Rolfe has a very unique skill set, Sean. When the workout is really hard and nasty, she happens to be good at it. And in all honesty, when an event asks of athletes high levels of work capacity, high power output, with minimal gymnastic skill set, she is one of the top picks each and every time. I talked to her before the whole event started this year at the Rogue Invitational, and I was like, hey, is it hard knowing that you really have to suffer to go get 100 points every time? Your skill set is so unique that when the workout's really hard, you thrive. The keys of this event are pretty simple. Ride your threshold to start. Although it's an out and back again type event, it's important to make sure that you don't get caught up in sprinting too soon, too early. We know that athletes can utilize that Echo Bike, and sometimes it can be a bit of a trap. And then also it's find your rhythm. This is a new apparatus, these Hulk Hands out here. And so because of the different range of motion that it will present in the form of versus a dumbbell or a kettlebell, athletes have to adapt on the fly.
First heat is underway. Emily Rolfe and the rest of the women here getting to work on those 30 calories on the Echo Bike. And again, after this, they move to those fat belts. You ever messed around with those?
You know, I've never touched one. I've seen them around. I've never actually gotten to play with one before.
We'll see how the athletes adapt to that new implement.
The biggest difference that I can see, of course, is that it's like a kettlebell minus the handle being on top, right? So it's going to put the athletes closer to the ground when they actually have to make contact with the ground. So it'll increase the range of motion a bit, and at demand of them that they hinge at the hip or drop their butt and squat down a little bit. But either way, Sean, they're going to be utilizing those legs that they have been pounding all weekend.
Bethany Flores and Emily Rolfe are your leaders right now in these first 30 calories. There is Ariel Lowen, who right now sits in 11th place overall, 330 total points, but only 5 points back at Danny Spiegel for 10th.
Yeah, this could be a particularly good event for Ariel as well. Nothing abstractly heavy here. I think she'll handle the ground to overhead very well. She's going to pace the bike like the veteran that she is, so she's going to ride her own race for sure.
A couple calories remaining here for the leaders in the heat, and Bethany Flores is going to be the first woman onto those fat bells. 50 pounds on each one. She has to do 20 shoulder to overhead. That's about 23 kilos.
All right, so this is the first look at this. This looks really cool. Bethany gets an opportunity to go between her legs. So I'm sure athletes have an opportunity to choose whether they want to go inside their feet or outside their feet. Most athletes, it looks like, are going to opt to go inside their feet so that they can hinge, tap them to the grass, extend in the form of a clean, and then press overhead.
Emily Rolfe is also onto those fat bells. 20 ground to overhead here. And for more on that implement, let's bring in the third member of our broadcast crew, Kiki Dixon.
Guys, these are the Rogue Thompson fat bells. They were co-developed with powerlifting legend Donnie Thompson. Essentially, it's a new take on the kettlebell. They have moved the handle and it's been repositioned inside the bell. Ideally, your hand and the bell are gonna act as one, so it'll be one nice fluid movement.
I really love the way the athletes look to be moving with these so far. It certainly changes. It changes the stability overhead. Of course, the point of control within the weight is very different now. So folks, if you're watching this at home and you're thinking, well, it looks a lot like a dumbbell, wouldn't it feel like a dumbbell? It'd feel very different due to the shape difference, due to the way that we have to navigate our bodies with this circular apparatus versus the two heads of a dumbbell that always feel equally distributed the entire time. There's a bit more stability that's going to be asked of these athletes, especially when they go shoulder overhead.
Emily Rolfe with 5 reps remaining as Karine Freyova has moved into second place. Final 4 reps for Rolfe. She takes a break. Flores is back on. Now after this is where the change to the event was made. It was going to be a 75-foot front rack lunge with a 95-pound barbell. That has changed. We're now doing 20 stationary lunges with those fat bells.
Yeah, and this is where that change in this event has to be a thing on the athlete's mind. It has to be important because now they're going to be having to slug through 20 more reps with those fat bells versus going to pick up something they're more familiar with in the form of a barbell. To me, I would change my pace. Then I intentionally decided to come out just a touch and probably lay off the threshold with these ground to overhead just so that I'm much more prepared for those lunges.
There's Karine Freyova, who comes in 20th place overall, just hasn't been able to get on track here. Her best finish was an 11th in event number 3. Danielle Brandon is now on to the reverse lunges.
And she's got those things in a great position here. Sean, she went very smoothly through the ground overhead and immediately got to work. There's no hesitating happening for her at all on these lunges. She looks very comfortable. Torso's remaining very upright as she finds herself stepping back to pull herself forward.
20 reps here, alternating legs. At the 70 rep mark is when they will take off on the run. And there goes Danielle Brandon. Brandon has completed all 70 reps. The score on the left side of the screen does not reflect the work that she has done, but she is clearly in the lead. Emily Rolfe is right behind her in second, and now Ariel Lowen is heading to Mater Hill for that bag drag.
And these athletes aren't just battling the weight of that bag, Sean. We know that because we've been battling these implements or the weather all weekend. The hill's a little slick. They've got to be mindful of their footing. Got to find the best posture that's going to help them get up the hill, and of course that bag as well.
Brandon and Rolfe, the only 2 athletes on the bag drag, as here comes Ariel Lowen.
You think about the movements that they're coming off of just executing right. Echo bike, filling the legs with a ton of blood, a lot of lactate, getting that burning sensation. Then they have to go ground overhead, a little bit more of a hinge. But they just came off of a lunge, and now anyone that's ever dragged anything backwards knows that when you pull something backwards, those quads get blown up. So they are certainly in the middle of a grind, as I'm sure Danielle Brandon is very happy to be at the top of the hill.
Brandon is now done, and she is heading back for now 20 more reverse lunges with those fat bells. Danielle Brandon, 13th place overall. Her best finish was a 5th in the duel, and now Emily Rolfe will be the second woman on her second and final set of lunges.
And this is where it was really important for Danielle to find a rhythm. She now is touching these fat bells for the second time, having a better familiarity with exactly how to execute them. She's going to know how to get them from ground to overhead. And now for these final 20, these reps are important. She's got to be able to hold Emily Rolfe off and, of course, be able to, excuse me, they're going to get to the lunges first, but she's got to be able to hold Rolfe off so that she has some time as an advantage when she gets to the bike.
Some rain starting to come down a little bit here at Dell Diamond as Emily Rolfe and Danielle Brandon are working through their second and final set of those reverse lunges, 50 pounds in each hand, about 23 kilos. And that bag that they dragged was 100 pounds. Some of the athletes having a tough time getting up that hill, and you can see the rain really starting to come down here at Dell Diamond Stadium. 45 kilos on that drag bag as more women are on their second and final set of reverse lunges.
And as we watch this rain continue to fall, Sean, there's a lot of considerations on the fly that athletes are forced to make. One, of course, is the hill. That's the obvious one. They got to make sure their footing is continually very solidified every step they take. But even with these lunges, they've got to be careful and cautious where they place that back leg. This also forces them to lean a little bit more forward into the front leg, which is already under a ton of duress with the weight on their body. And then we talk about grip when it comes to these ground overhead. The inside, those handles are getting a little wet, and these athletes are going to continue to chalk the best that they can to keep that solid grip on the fat bells, but they're battling the elements out there as much as they're battling this event as well.
Emily Rolfe and Danielle Brandon are tied for the lead right now at 66 reps apiece. Ariel Lowen sits in second, followed by Bethany Flores and Karine Freyova in fifth. Saw Rolfe taking a look to her left to see what Brandon was doing as Brandon continues to work through her final set of that ground to overhead.
Emily Rolfe is trying to look over constantly right there, like you mentioned, Sean, right at Danielle to try to figure out where is she, how long is she resting, how much time do I need to make up.
Brandon continuing to work. Now takes another break. Emily Rolfe, she's back to work as Rolfe and Brandon continue to trade the lead here in this first of two heats for the women. Seventh event of the competition. There will be 9 total for the individual athletes. Now Danielle Brandon back in front.
And you wonder, Sean, from an athlete mentality, Emily Rolfe knows she can make some money on that Echo bike. She has a unique ability to put out a lot of power. She's a taller athlete. She can spin those pedals quickly with a lot of aggression. She could be game in this clean and jerk portion just so that she knows she gives herself an opportunity to go get it on the bike.
Danielle Brandon is getting close to finishing up. Emily Rolfe now has 4 reps remaining. Brandon is on her final rep, and she is done.
All right, here we go. The race is going to get exciting. Danielle has got to go. Be aggressive early, create a rhythm, get the watts going, because here comes Emily Rolfe, and she's not going to hold back at all.
Rolfe and Brandon, first 2 women to the Echo bike. 30 final calories, and then they have to get across the finish line. Ariel Lowen has 4 reps remaining on the ground to overhead. Now 3, as Lowen looks to be the next woman to get to the bike.
And one thing for us to try to be able to eye up is the way that the handles are moving. It's an easy visual you can see. Typically, if you see someone's hands flushing back and forth a little bit faster than another, that means their RPMs are higher. They're making more revolutions per minute. That's going to reward them more calories in a faster time. Right now, it looks like Emily has a bit of an edge when it comes to the RPM output, and we'll see how it plays out as the calories continue to chip away.
At the 112 rep mark, they will be done as Ariel Lowen competing in her home state, is now onto the bike in that white top and brown pants. Emily Rolfe has about a calorie lead right now on Brandon. She has 9 to go. As Emily Rolfe looking to set the early time to beat here in the first of these 2 heats in event 7.
Yeah, and she clearly attacked this in a great way in regards to pacing. She got on just a few seconds after Danielle Brandon, so Brandon had the lead early on the Echo bike. Emily closed the gap and then finished with speed.
And Rolfe is done, and she is across the finish line, and Emily Rolfe will take heat number 1. Danielle Brandon looking to be the next woman to finish. And Brandon is in. You see the rain really starting to come down now. 18-minute time cap in this event. Ariel Lowen through 100 of the 111 scored repetitions now in this event. She has 10 calories to go. Bethany Flores sits in 4th, followed by Karine Freyova.
Yeah, and a lot of times the goal here as an athlete is to get to the bike back, of course, as quickly as you can. But when you hop on, when you know you got something in front of you like 30 full calories, you don't want to just start off sprinting immediately when you get back on there. You want to start off at a pace with urgency, but you also want to think, I'm gonna just steadily build the watts the closer that I get to my target goal. That way you don't start too fast and burn out through the finish.
And then we had a race between Flores and Lowen as Freyova is across the finish line as well. We'll have to wait for the official time between Flores and Lowen. That was close, but it is really coming down here in Austin, Texas. Some of the heaviest rain that we have seen all week. There is Paige Semenza. Comes in 12th place overall, coming off a 10th place finish in the deadlift event that saw her pull 375 pounds. Paige Powers, 15th place overall, is getting set to finish up. Her best finish was an 8th in event number 3, and now Paige is in.
I don't think they're mad about it. I don't think they're mad about getting dumped on at this point of the event, right? Like, hey, if it was there affecting their drag and their fat bell execution, I totally understand. But as they finish on the Echo bike, it looks fun.
Shelby Neal is off and in. And Neal is just going to enjoy the downpour.
Yeah, man, it'll, if nothing, this is going to be one for the memory books for all of these women that are finishing this event out there in the downpour.
Semenza is across. Elena Caratala is in. At least Kyra Milligan is the last athlete out on the field here. She's got 3 minutes to go before she will get time capped. Everybody's trying to avoid the rain, including our cameras. A lot of plastic bags out there on the field right now, protecting some valuable equipment as Kyra Milligan is looking to finish up her final 30-calorie bike. Now the rain's starting to let up a little bit here.
Kyra grinding through this has had some solid performances throughout the weekend, knowing that this is a time domain, this is a chipper style event that is something that she's trying to expand her growth in as an athlete and certainly be able to capitalize on more points in the future here.
Milligan pulled 395 pounds last night in the max deadlift event for a 5th place finish. Best of the competition for her.
And I guarantee you,
5 calories remain for Milligan.
She's not having an opportunity to touch many heavy weights in training for her right now. Right, we all understand that as a competitive athlete, you've really got to lean into training your weakness. She's doing a lot of running. She's doing a lot of aerobic development. A lot of stuff that's going to help her prepare for moments just like this.
And now Kyra Milligan will close out heat number 1. But it's Emily Rolfe who sets the top time unofficially at 12 minutes and 16 seconds.
Yeah, Emily did a great job there executing. I mean, she was an athlete that we watched all the way from the beginning. We know that with her history, her athletic performances, she She's got a natural skill set for long grinder-style workouts, and at 12:16, we still consider that a moderately long workout in this sport. And it's a long time to be grinding through 40 dumbbell clean and jerks at 53 pounds, and same with all the lunges and everything else that was asked for. Take a look back. Danielle Brandon did a great job early pacing. She was the first one to the hill. Again, we talked about how easy these athletes make it look, but how difficult it actually is, especially coming off the ground overhead and the lunges that they had to do. And she was actually the first one back here, even to the lunges, as we see her executing. Emily Rolfe just chipped away at that lead the entire time as both of them went unbroken on the back half of these lunges. And then it was really back and forth through the ground to overhead, eyeing each athlete, looking left to right. Brandon was to the echo bike. Enough time just to accumulate about 2 to 3 calories ahead of Emily Rolfe. But we know Emily Rolfe, she's going to say that that echo bike is her jam, and she closed the gap and was able to recapture that lead to finish across this smooth, wet, and glistening floor here at the Rogue Invitational. I'm sure they're enjoying these cool temperatures right now.
12:16 unofficially for Emily Rolfe, your top time heading into the second and final heat. Remember, you can head to roguefitness.com/invitational for all the latest updates and standings. Second heat coming up next for the women. The rain continues to come down here at Dell Diamond Stadium as we are set for heat number 2 for the women in Event 7, Hulk Hands, presented by Mayhem Athlete. Your overall standings coming in, it is Tia Toomey with the overall lead, but not by much. She only leads Laura Horvath, I should say, by 5 points. Emma Lawson sits in third place with 415 points, but there's a host of women behind her who have a shot of taking away that third place position now with 3 events remaining. The event description, whole lot of work, and some things have changed here.
A whole lot of work, and we called a few audibles here. This is a chipper out and back again. These athletes are going to open with 30 calories on the Echo bike. They're going to do 20 fat bell ground to overhead with 50 pounds. Then instead of the 75-foot front rack lunge, they're going to do 20 stationary lunges with those fat bells, out for a run to drag the bag to the top of the hill, return back to the bells, more lunges, more ground overhead, and then they finish with 30 cals on the Echo bike.
Well, Emily Rolfe has the top time, 12 minutes, 16 seconds unofficially, as she won heat number 1.
Yeah, and there's a lot of women in this heat that are eyeing up that time and have the capacity to beat that score.
Laura Horvath and Tia Toomey will be right next to each other in lanes 5 and 6. That is the battle we have been watching all week long, and they currently sit in 1 and 2 in the overall standings. Toomey with just a 5-point lead over Laura Horvath, and we start with the 30 calories.
There are leaders, Tia and Laura, and Laura's an athlete that we've got to keep an eye out on. She has high levels of high power output and high work capacity. Again, these movements are simple. We're covering a lot of ground with the out and back again style. I really like her ability, not just to compete with Tia here head-to-head on this particular event, but perhaps to be able to recapture that lead here for first place.
Keep an eye on the judges as they count off reps. Obviously, the rain is throwing a huge wrench into a lot of things here, not only the schedule, but also some of our technical equipment. 30 calories here, 18-minute time cap, 12 minutes, 16 seconds. Again, that's the time to beat from Emily Rolfe in heat number 1.
Hey, it's one thing for us to say it, but to watch these athletes do it, they train for the unknown and unknowable, right? Hey, this is certainly an element that many feel unprepared for. Have you ever picked up an apparatus when it's wet? Do you feel like psychologically and emotionally you can adjust to that? These are all things that are being tested right now as we watch these athletes take the field.
Laura Horvath and Emma Lawson are your leaders right now on these 30 calories. Both of them now through 25 and counting. Gabby McGowan there as Manon Anganese is joining that fight. There's Christine Kohlenbrander. She's had a great competition, 6th place overall right now. And she's had 3 straight finishes inside the top 10. Took 3rd in seed at the bar back on Friday morning. Now Horvath and McGowan, advancing to the fat bells along with Lawson and Anganese. Here comes Emma Carey. Now 20 ground overhead, 50 pounds in each hand. Alex Gazan is off, Danny Spiegel as well. That's good for Laura Horvath, as some people are getting between her and Tia Toomey right now. Now Toomey just getting off the bike, and she'll get to work.
And we're noticing a lot more of the same. Athletes choosing to make contact with the ground between their legs as they bring the bells to the shoulder and then overhead. Slight difference between the way the athletes are executing. You see more of a swing type action from Laura Horvath to get the fat bells to the shoulder, and then she executes a push press, where we see Tia kind of slightly bending her arms just a touch to get them towards her hip. Then she gets them to the shoulders, and she's executing a pusher.
And a lot of the women, when they picked those things up for the first time, got doused with some water as that rain has been collecting in the bottom of those fat bells. This is the heaviest rain we've seen during competition since the competition began. I mean, we had some heavy rain on Thursday, but obviously that was not a competition day until the nighttime when the rain let up. The field's a little bit slick, but not terrible according to people down there on the field right now. And actually may help with that sled bag drag a little bit when they get to Mater Hill. Laura Horvath is your leader.
Yeah, and I really like the way Laura's executing here. It's smooth, it's composed. What Tia's doing can work for her. She's slightly bending her elbows, but from an efficiency standpoint, we see that actually bleeds out a little bit of energy rep after rep.
Horvath is now on to the 20 reverse lunges. And again, this is the part of the event that changed for safety reasons. They were supposed to front rack lunge a barbell, but because of the weather, they changed it to this movement.
And these lunges don't really look like they're presenting much of a problem to any of the athletes that we've seen go through it. Again, the footing is something they have to be really mindful of, though. Where they place that trail leg and how far it is from their lead leg is important so that they can remain balanced. And Laura Horvath in and out of there quick for those trail.
Horvath is done. And Tia Toomey, meanwhile, is starting to gain some ground. She was one of the last women to get off the bike and right now sits in 5th place in the heat as Horvath makes her way to Mater Hill.
Sean, we've seen Tia pace the 10th inning like a true pro. The thing about starting this particular event from behind is that there's less transitions, there's less opportunity to make up ground. So while she's running her own race, and of course I know she needed to pace that bike, you get this far behind an athlete like Laura Horvath in an event like this, and there's no making up that ground. 100
pounds on that bag, 45 kilos as Horvath makes her way up Mater Hill in center field at Dell Diamond Stadium. She's the only woman on this portion of the event. Now Gabby McGowan is there as well. And that bag, again, 100 pounds, that's 45 kilos, but probably soaked up with some water there that's added a little bit of weight. But Horvath is managing that okay. Now here comes Emma Lawson and Manon Anganese. Danny Spiegel taking off. And Tia Toomey has also made her way to the hill. Toomey there in the middle of the screen. Horvath smartly, I don't know if that was on purpose or not, but she decided to slide down the hill.
Yeah, it looked like she was trying to be extra sure of her footing and then just kind of gave up on it. Was like, cool, I'll take it for the next 5 yards, and it wound up okay in her favor. We'll see if anyone else chooses to try to slide on down.
She's trying to slip and slide your way down the hill there. Work smart, not hard. Horvath is now working her way back to the fat bells. And here comes McGowan. And all Horvath needs to do to erase the remainder of the lead that Toomey has on her is just beat her in this event. 12:16 unofficially from Emily Rolfe is your top time from Heat 1. Now, Toomey has moved into 3rd place behind Gabby McGowan. And here comes Emma Lawson right behind Toomey. 20 more reverse lunges from McGowan and Horvath. They're getting to work on that portion of the event. And here comes Tia Toomey set to join them. Alex Gazan and Manon Anganese are also done along with Emma Carey.
That's right, okay. And a lot of this race up until this point has been these athletes vetting their own fatigue, how they feel coming into the day, how fast can I go early, how fast do I need to go in order to stay in a threatening position. And a lot of them, of course, pace that run on the back half so that they know they can pick up these fat bells and go 20 unbroken with the lunges.
Horvath is on her final rep, and she'll head back to the bike. So Laura Horvath looking to pick up an event win.
And she's transitioning to those ground overhead here. So she's making sure that her hands are going to be dry enough so that she can still link some reps together without losing control of those fat bells.
20 more ground to overhead. Jump the gun there on that. She has to complete more reps here before then she can get back to the Echo bike. Emma Lawson trying to hang on to that third spot on the podium. Right now sits in 4th place in this heat. She's 20 points up on McGowan, and McGowan is ahead of her right now.
All these athletes given slight pause. This is where it was important to find a rhythm in this event, is with these ground overhead. None of the athletes really knew or had an opportunity to play with them very much leading into this point. So it was all about deciding how you were going to break them up and how long you wanted to rest, and then, of course, holding yourself accountable to that so that you can minimize downtime.
There's Gabby McGowan, who's 4 reps back of Laura Horvath for the lead. Horvath should have 8 to go here. At the 81 rep mark is when she should head back to the bike. Horvath taking a break. Toomey, meanwhile, is now in 3rd, creeping up on Gabby McGowan.
Folks, as we watch these athletes move, again, taking note Tia's form. She bends her elbows before her hips completely open. If you have any time understanding Olympic lifts, and while these are fat bells, this is a clean and jerk, you want to delay bending the elbows until your hips open. Laura has a much smoother pull off the floor this way, and it's penalizing her less because of this. She does a great job at opening her hip all the way and then bending her arms after she shrugs her shoulders to get those bells to her shoulders before she presses.
McGowan and Horvath each have 4 reps remaining, and both of them have taken a break. Horvath first to get back to work. Final 2 for Laura Horvath, and now she gets to move back to the bike for 30 final calories. She has a little more than 3 minutes to track down Emily Rolf's top time. Alex Gazan has moved in front of Tia Toomey. Gabby McGowan is back onto the bike. Toomey and Gazan. Gazan's in the pink top on the bottom right-hand side of your screen, now in the middle of your screen, who is coming off an event win last night in the 1 rep max deadlift. Won that event with a lift of 425 pounds. Moved herself into 5th place as a result.
This can create a lot of momentum for an athlete like Alex Gazan. Get those fat bells onto the mat. That's going to be a standard that she has to do before she advances. But get on that bike and get some momentum going.
McGowan and Horvath need to get to the 111 rep mark. Now Toomey just getting onto the bike.
This is where, Sean, psychologically you got to be strong. You've got to be capable of continuing to stay uncomfortable and build intensity through the finish.
Emma Carey, bottom of your screen, moving to the bike for the final time. Horvath now with 7 calories left. McGowan has 11. And Gazan has moved past Toomey. So right now, it looks like Laura Horvath is going to be your new overall leader with 2 events remaining. Final 3 calories for Laura Horvath, and she's looking to smash Emily Rolf's top time of 12:16 and pick up her 2nd event win of the Rogue Invitational. Laura Horvath is your new leader with 2 events left. 10:43.99 seconds, and now Gabby McGowan is in. Keep an eye on the race between Alex Gazan and Tia Toomey. Gazan has about a 3-calorie lead on Toomey right now.
You really got to want it. You really got to fight. Every one of these women wants to have success. They really do. Are they willing to suffer? Are they willing to send it here, even when they have nothing left? And if you've ridden an Echo bike, you've been in this situation at some time through your fitness journey. It hurts. It burns. You've got to dig. You think about pushing down in the pedals, pulling with your arms, pressing with your arms. Whatever is most tired, use the opposite body part to try to get the work done as much as you can. Urgency through the finish.
Gazan has 2 calories remaining. She's in the pink top, and she's off. And Alex Gazan is going to work her way across the finish line, and that'll be good enough for 3rd place in the event is now Emma Carey is across. This is big for Laura Horvath, as Emma Carey is going to take 4th place in the event. 12:16 is now the 5th best time. Toomey's off. Toomey gets in ahead of Rolf's time. So Toomey's going to take 5th place in the event, and that's going to be worth 80 points. Laura Horvath should have a 15-point lead on Toomey with 2 events remaining. So Emma Lawson now needs to get in because Gabby McGowan, the woman directly behind her in the overall standings, has already finished. Lawson is in. She only led McGowan, did Lawson by 20 points. And now Manon Anganese is off, and she's across the finish line. Leaves Spiegel, Kohlenbrander, and Fisher down in lanes 1, 2, and 3 as the final 3 women on the competition field.
Long down, adjusted to the bike. 30 calories.
Lauren Fisher, who is competing with a heavy heart, recently lost her mother, but has had an incredible competition. I think has exceeded a lot of people's expectations coming into this event in 8th place overall.
She's really done a great job of execution. I agree with you there, Sean. She's exceeded what I had expected of her even through this competition. And she's someone that certainly is very easy to root for. We've been rooting for many years. It's great to see her back on the scene at the elite level, competing individually.
Now Danny Spiegel is off, and Spiegel gets across well inside the time cap. Christine Kohlenbrander has 2 calories remaining. Kohlenbrander's done.
Makes it across the line. Right around the 1350 mark. Lauren Fisher. Looking to finish up again.
Lauren Fisher with 4 minutes left to go. Shouldn't be a problem. But Fisher has only had 2 finishes outside the top 10 so far. That will probably change with this result.
Right through the elements with less than 4 minutes remaining. She's definitely going to finish. The question is how fast can she get it done?
Best finish was the 7th in the Circus, the event that started yesterday's slate of competition. Laura Horvath is going to get the event win. It's the 2nd of this competition, the 6th of her career at the Rogue Invitational, ties with her 2nd most all time for women.
Less than 5 calories remaining.
Crowd still pushing Lauren to finish these calories here. They might not all be front and center because they're hiding in the covered area of the stadium.
There is a crowd on hand here, but as you said, they're all up on the concourse seeking shelter from the rain here. Now, Lauren Fisher is in, and that'll do it. Laura Horvath edging out training partner and friend Gabby McGowan by 10 seconds. And Laura Horvath will retake the overall lead from Tia Toomey, and she should have a 15-point cushion on the 3-time Rogue Invitational champion.
Yeah, she handled business, Sean. She did exactly what she needed to do. I almost guarantee you. She had this one especially marked on her target list there from once all these events got known to the athletes in regards to where she needed to hit a home run, and she did just that.
And this was an event that lined up well for Laura Horvath and her skill set.
Yeah, we talked about it lining up well, and this is why. It included 30 calories on the Echo bike as the rain was pouring down. We knew they were going to have to battle the elements. When they took the field, they'd already watched the previous women go through it. They had to be careful on the lunges. This was one of the pivots from the originally programmed workout. It was supposed to be a barbell. They were going to work through space, but it actually ended up being harder, in my opinion. That's a heavier load when it talks about being unilaterally loaded. And then, of course, she generously made her way up the hill, and then made a little bit of an audible on the way down, decided, hey, for the next 5 yards, I'm just going to take this and slide on the way down. And then on the back half of this event, it was really all Laura. She went unbroken on the lunges. Her clean and jerks are so smooth and effective. Tia had that little bit of a hitch in her clean and jerk, which I think slowed her down, particularly on the front part of the workout. She got that pre-elbow bend. It looked like that unilateral loading, which means one arm at a time, was giving her a little bit of trouble. And then it was the Laura Horvath show on the Echo bike to finish. She knew she had a lead, and she just handled exactly what she needed to do to come across as the leader after this particular event, and of course the winner of this one here.
A second event win for Laura Horvath, 6th of her career at the Invitational, and she is with Kiki Dixon.
Laura, congratulations on your event win. I don't know if you noticed, we had a little weather. How did that affect things out there for you?
To be honest, not really. It was just like nice to get cool, I guess. But the only thing was the grip, like it was slippery, and you had to be cautious on the hill to go up and down. I slipped, not on purpose whatsoever, so it didn't really change much.
We talked earlier in the weekend about as soon as you're done with an event, you're kind of replaying it in your mind, what you would do different. If you got another crack at this, what would you change?
I think I executed that pretty good. I was happy. As soon as I saw those kettlebells out on the field, I knew it was my kind of workout, so I think it went very well.
What did you like about those kettlebells specifically?
I just like heavy stuff, you know. They were pretty heavy, so I like them.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, guys.
Laura Horvath will head into the final two events, or at least the next event, as your overall leader as she picks up her second event win here, the 2023 Rogue Invitational. And once again, unofficially, that cushion should be 15 points over Tia Toomey. The women are done. Men coming up next. Remember, head to roguefitness.com/invitational to keep up on everything going on here at Dell Diamond Stadium in Round Rock, Texas. Hulk Hands continues when we return to the 2023 Rogue Invitational. Action continues here on the final day of competition at the 2023 Rogue Invitational as the men have taken the field for the first of two heats in event number 7, the 7th of 9 events that they will face. It is Hulk Hands presented by Mayhem Athlete. Here are your overall standings coming in. Pat Vellner with a 90-point lead over Jeffrey Adler. Roman Krennikov currently sits in 3rd place, tied in points with Brent Fikowski, and only 35 points separate Krennikov from Noah Olson in 10th. So plenty to be decided here over these final 3 events. Hulk Hands, presented by Mayhem Athlete. Everything is the same except for that front rack lunge.
Yeah, and this is just a lot of work. These athletes are going to start with 30 calories on the Echo Bike. They're going to do 20 fat belt ground to overhead at 70 pounds. The audible that we're calling instead of the 75-foot front rack lunge is to take those fat bells, put them on your shoulders, and do 20 stationary lunges. They're going to run to the hill, take the bag up to the top, run back down, or slide, their option, and then they're going to get back to the 20 lunges and then finish with the ground to overhead before they hop on that Echo Bike one more time.
There'll be 9 men in this first of 2 heats. Ricky Garrard will be in lane number 5, right now 12th place overall. I don't think this is where many people expected him to be at this point in the competition.
I agree with you, Sean. 12th place overall, 50 points out of that podium spot, and still within striking distance with 300 points available today. But Ricky's someone to watch with his high level of work capacity, and we know he's hungry today.
We get started with those 30 calories on the bike. Garrard does have an event win under his belt. He won seat at the bar to kick off Friday morning. But since then, he's had 3 finishes outside of the top 10. Yellow host on the right side of your screen, your early leader on this 30-calorie ride. The rain has subsided a little bit here. I think it's been reduced to just a light sprinkle.
Yeah, it looks very different than that final heat of women we watched just take the field, that's for sure. Much less squinting and closing of the eyes on the Echo Bike to start because there's less water being inflicted in their face. We already notice a pretty glaring difference, though, between the men and women, and that's that RPMs. Viewers, you can watch how fast their arms are moving front to back. That is equally how fast the pedals are traveling. And we notice quite a significant difference in regards to the tempo that the men are executing with here to begin this event.
Yellow host is just about done. He's on his final calorie, and he is off. Now he has those 20 ground to overhead with those 70-pound, 30-kilo fat bells, and he will be the first man to get to work. Now Ricky Garrard and Lazar Jukic move into the dumbbells. Bailey Martin and Tudor Magda.
Here we are again, all the athletes opting to go between the legs with the fat bells. We should notice them hinging at the hip. And what we want to see, folks, is that they're extending that hip as they shrug their shoulder and then bend their arms. So the sooner that we see that elbow bend, if they're doing it before they get that hip all the way open, that's going to be a bit of a fault in the order of operations. We want to see you use speed and larger musculature first before we actually send it off to the smaller muscles. Ricky doing a similar thing that we saw Tia do, bending those elbows just a touch early to get it up to that front rack position.
Yellow Hosta continues to lead here as he is through 44 of the 50 reps up to this point. He's got to do 20 ground to overhead, then it's those 20 reverse lunges. Hosta coming in 11th place overall, but only 5 points outside the top 10 and only 40 points back of a podium spot.
One of the big focuses here, again, is find the rhythm with these fat bells. We know no athlete was coming out to do these unbroken, and it would be completely unnecessary to do that this early in an event. But it's about holding yourself accountable to how long you're going to rest, stepping back to the fat bell, picking it up, and getting back to work. This is where athletes that are going to excel, particularly in the latter portion of this event, are going to have success. That accountability, get back to work. Even when you're tired, take a couple breaths and get to the next movement.
The athletes will get credit for a rep for every 5 lunges that they complete here. At the 54 rep mark is when they will take off on the run. Yellow Hosta, Dallin Pepper, Bailey Martin, all on the lead pace. Ricky Garrard's up there as well.
All rep for rep here. I don't believe that we're going to see any athletes breaking up the lunges.
Bailey Martin's off first, followed by Lazar Jukic, Hosta, and Dallin Pepper right behind them. Now they have to pull that 125-pound bag to the top of Mater Hill.
Bailey Martin really made up some ground on those lunges. He had a bit of a faster technique by almost like driving his back leg into the grass, utilizing that soft surface as a rebound to stand back to the top, and it paid off for him there.
The rain has stopped, but the temperatures today are much cooler than they were the past couple of days. We're only in the 60s, which is significantly cooler than it has been the past couple of days here. So the athletes getting a break at least from the heat. Yellow Hosta working that thing up the hill along with Jukic and Martin. 125 pounds, 57 kilos on the bag. Ricky Garrard is there as well.
So you'll notice how all the men are taking 2 to 3 steps, then pulling with their arms. This gives the legs a little bit more reprieve. The legs, the quad specifically, and the low back. For one moment as they pull, it is unloaded, which they'll really appreciate. Now, of course, their arms are getting worked as they make that pull, but they will take that as a compromise to let the legs get a little bit of a rest.
Yellow Hosta barreling down the hill, along with Dallin Pepper. The Hosta maintains his lead.
We know that Yellow likes simple and high power output events. That is exactly what he said are his cup of tea. This particular event really mimics a lot of those things. My question with him was, how was he going to respond with the ground to overhead? These are not light fat bells that these athletes are using, and he is tall and very long-limbed. So for him to execute so well with the 70 pounds in each arm with that ground to overhead, it's a really good sign for him that he's been working on the right things when it comes to strength development this offseason.
Hosta and Pepper, the first 2 men on their second and final set of those 20 reverse lunges. Again, they get a rep for every 5 that they complete. Ricky Garrard has joined them along with Bailey Martin and Lazar Jukic. 5 men on their second set of 20 reverse lunges. Dallin Pepper, 14th place overall coming into this event. Best finish was a 6th yesterday in the duel.
That's right, Dallin's a rookie, but the 5th fittest man on earth this year at the CrossFit Games. Had high expectations coming in. I would say that the way his performances have shaked out would definitely not be what he expected. So I'm excited to see him grinding for a top spot here in this chipper so far.
Victor Hoffer has now picked up those fat bells to start his final set of lunges. And there goes Will Morad on the left side of your screen. As Yellow Hosta and Dallin Pepper are onto their ground to overhead. Once they get to the 81 rep mark, Along with Ricky Garrard, they will head back to the bike for 30 final calories.
And you'll notice some subtle differences in the technical changes between these athletes. Again, Ricky utilizing a slight elbow bend before his hip gets open. He's using less momentum off the floor to help those things get to the top. This is likely going to test or tax his musculature a little bit more. Dallin Pepper looking more smooth and fluid. Utilizes proper timing, extends the hip, then bends his arm. He's tremendous overhead, so he's got a really great overhead position with those fat bells, which also costs him less energy. It's an efficient position, feels purely locked out at the top. You'll notice Ricky just flashes the lockout at the top so that the judge gives him a good single, but he couldn't actually support those fat bells up there in that position very long.
Dallin Pepper continues to lead. He only has 4 reps remaining before he'll go back to the bike. Yellahosa now sits in second. He's on the right side of your screen in that white shirt. And Ricky Garrard and Lazar Jukic are fighting for third right now. 70 pounds, about 32 kilos in each hand. Final couple of reps for Dallin Pepper, and then he will head to the bike. 30 final calories for Dallin Pepper.
And you love to see it. He got to that bike and got immediately to work, put himself in a place of discomfort, but I could tell he had a target there, which means there was an expectation when he got back to the bike, not just, oh, I'm going to fill this out. When he got there, he and his coach probably had some type of discussion on, hey, this is the watts that you have to hit. You got to get there. You got to open with this. And then, of course, you want to try to build as you get closer and closer to that target calorie.
Lazar Jukic got to the bike just ahead of Yellahosa. Now here comes Ricky Garrard. 4 men on their final 30 calories. First of 2 heats for the men. Dallin Pepper again, 14th place overall with 270 points. He's 80 points back of Noah Olson for 10th. Coming off that great performance at the CrossFit Games back in August. 111 reps is what they need to hit before they get off the bike. And Dallin Pepper's only 5, now 3 reps remaining. 3 calories remaining as Lazar Jukic trying to chase down Ricky Garrard as Dallin Pepper has come across the finish line, and Dallin Pepper will take heat number 1. 9:04.75 seconds for Pepper.
Maybe that gesture was dust the rain off my shoulder.
The 10 calories, or now 9 calories remain for Ricky Garrard.
And there goes Yella. He's sending it on these latter calories here.
Yellahosa starting to pick up the pace here. And Hosta is off. Garrard will be next. Lazar Jukic looks to be the next man to finish. He has 2 calories remaining.
Lazar rotating back, changing his posture there.
And Jukic is across.
Athletes want to lean forward and be aggressive and push into those handles as much as they can. He would have to rock back so that he could, of course, get as much oxygen as he could. We saw him rotating there for those last 30 calories back and forth between that.
Bailey Martin, Will Morad, and Victor Hoffer are all on the bike, and now Garrett Clark will join them. That leaves Tudor Magda as the only man still going through his ground to overhead with those fat bells. Yellahosa is going to take 2nd place in this heat after leading early, but Dallin Pepper with a good push late will take the heat. Ricky Garrard's going to finish 3rd, 9:37.23 seconds for him. Still plenty of time left before we hit that 18-minute time cap.
Yeah, the clock is not going to save these men. They've got to be willing to try to make moves on this bike. Every point is going to matter for them. They're going to want to look back no matter where they finish at the conclusion of this week, knowing that they gave their best effort. That's always something that's really important to an athlete, is that no matter where you fare, you want to look back and know that you gave your very best. You can go work, you can go learn, you can clean some things up, but your effort should never be questioned. You got to be willing to sit in on this bike and die for every point.
Now Bailey Martin is across. And Garrett Clark is cranking away. Victor Hoffer is across. And now Will Morad's coming in. But Garrett Clark on the right side there in lane number 10 is emptying the tank, as now Tudor Magda has made his way to the bike. Clark with a couple calories left. Magda just getting started on his 30-calorie ride. And Clark is in. So Tudor Magda, the last man out on the field. And we still have now 6 minutes left before we hit that time cap. So Magda's going to get himself through this.
He'll get him through it. The atmosphere will get him through it. This nice, cool rain will help. And, of course, the crowd here, front and center, supporting even through the elements. And Sean, Tudor is, not that I can put these athletes in the same grouping, but very similar to a Kyra Milligan that we saw finishing up the last event. They're powerhouse athletes, Sean. They're strong. They have done some great things. We've talked about their names. They've got top finishes that, you know, within the top 3 to 4 athletes throughout the course of this weekend. Aerobic development, local muscle stamina, chippers just like this in the longer time domains. Once they get to that 9-minute and beyond time domain, these are things that these athletes are trying to grow in.
Magda coming off that second place performance last night in the max deadlifts where he pulled 595 pounds. So as you mentioned, a very powerful athlete. As Will Morad and Dallin Pepper share a laugh.
With our sport, unlike many other, that's the difficult part, is that when you identify where your strengths are, you've got to then lean into your weaknesses. You've got to train them often. You've got to figure out ways to still get as many points possible and hit home runs when you can on events that present themselves, but also minimize damage control.
Magda is done, and that will close out the opening heat for the men here in event 7, Hulk Hands, as Dallin Pepper sets the early mark to beat at 9:04.75 seconds. Pepper looking for his best finish of this competition. So far, that's a 6th place in the duel yesterday.
And I'll tell you what, out of the gate on this particular event, it was a tight race all the way through. We saw a different style of drag bag from the men than we did with the women, as they used their legs a few steps and then pulled just a little bit with the arms to give their low back and their quads a little bit of reprieve. And we see Yella lead the way as he comes down the hill. Didn't choose to slide, but he certainly used some momentum. A little bit out of control there at the bottom. Dallin Pepper nipping at his heels here. And then that's when we really start to see this transition begin to happen. Pepper makes a hard charge here at the lunge. And then due to his movement efficiency, and really, honestly, a wonderful example of his pacing, he was able to get to those ground to shoulder smoothly with plenty of energy to spare. And he hit a crazy pace on that Echo bike to finish and come across for an event win. Dust that rain off your shoulder, young Dallin Pepper. Fittest American male from last year's CrossFit Games.
9:04.75 seconds for Dallin Pepper. Yella Hosta, 30 seconds behind him. Ricky Garrard comes in next, followed by Jukic and Bailey Martin. One heat remains here in event 7, Hulk Hands, as our coverage of the 2023 Rogue Invitational continues. We are set for the second and final heat for event 7, Hulk Hands, presented by Mayhem Athlete, as Sunday at the 2023 Rogue Invitational rolls on at Dell Diamond Stadium in Round Rock, Texas. Thanks for staying with us, everybody. I'm Sean Woodland with former Affiliate Cup champion Adrian Conway, and we have Kiki Dixon down there on the field. Here are your standings coming into the day. Pat Vellner has opened up a 90-point lead over Jeff Adler for first place. Roman Krennikov currently occupies 3rd, courtesy of a tiebreak with Brent Fikowski, but he's only 35 points up on Noah Olson in 10th. Event number 7 will go as written, except for the 75-foot front rack lunge to Zeus.
Yeah, the only difference in audible that we're calling there is that they're going to do 20 stationary lunges with those fat bells on their shoulders. Athletes can put them slightly behind, almost like a back rack position, but that is it. You have seen it. The bike, the shoulder overhead, the lunge, and there and back again style.
Lane assignments for this second and final heat. Roman Krennikov, who currently sits in 3rd place overall, will be in lane number 7. And when you looked at this event, I think his name came to the top of your mind.
A lot like Laura Horvath on the women's side, Roman Krennikov immediately jumped into my mind. It's high-level work capacity. This man loves the bike. The fat bells will present no problem for him. I expect a very smooth, efficient movement, almost like a swing into a push press for Roman. And I think he's going to knock this one out of the park. Now, he's not going to be alone. These other guys are going to be dying to fight for every point available as we've got a close race, just like you mentioned, Sean, though, for the podium all the way through.
We are underway, 30 calories to begin on the Echo Bike. The time to beat belongs to Dallin Pepper at 9:04.75 seconds. You mentioned Roman Krennikov. He's coming off a 7th place finish in the max deadlift event. He had a lift of 565 pounds. But prior to that, he did not have the best Saturday. He had a 15th and a 13th to go along with that 7th place finish. Now he still has some work to do to hang on to that 3rd place spot. Plenty of men still in contention for the podium.
Also in the mix as well.
Jordan Carl Gudmundsson, Jason Hopper, and Travis Mayer up front here. Krennikov's on that pace as well.
BKG all approaching 20 calories.
Yeah, and a lot of this up into this point, Sean, is the athletes eyeing left to right, pacing just to get started.
If you want to check out the Iron Game Premium stream, you can do it for just $15 today. A lot of fun being had over there. Pat Sherwood and China Cho hosting things. They've had a great group of guests coming through. Check it out, Iron Game Premium. You can go to roguefitness.com/invitational for more information on that. Jordan Carl Gudmundsson is now off the bike, along with everybody else. 30 calories, taking about the same amount of time for all 10 athletes, is now once again the rain starting to pick up.
Oh yeah, here comes the fun, and we see a lot more of the same. Athletes going between the legs, it's a hinge at the hip. They're trying to be as patient as they can. If they're smart with bending that elbow, again, reduce the amount of power that is being taken away by bending your arms early. Right now, again, my eyes on Roman. He's got more of a non-traditional setup as he's actually going outside of the legs. He's opting to go outside of the legs. This allows him to put a little bit more of the onus or pressure on his hips and low back, and he looks smooth. He's utilizing a push press to lock it out at the top.
What are the keys to this event?
Now, I'll tell you, one of the big keys to me is that you got to ride your threshold, you know, and it started with the bike there. We saw all the men kind of pace based off of each other, where it was very equal to start. This means that they didn't want to sprint to try to one-up each other because it's too early in a test like this to do so, to take that risk. And then this entire race, you've got to find a rhythm, but specifically here at the Fat Belt, this is a unique object that many of the athletes have not touched before, and they're not going to go unbroken. So find a rhythm in how many you're going to do and in how long you're going to rest when you do put those things down.
There's Jeff Adler, who currently sits in 2nd place overall with 400 points, but he's 90 points back of Pat Vellner, the man on the right side of your screen. Adler coming off a 9th place finish in the max deadlift.
Now you notice that, oh, Pat just going right to it. Oh, Roman the same, you love it. I thought they were loading up for another ground overhead, Sean, and they finished their final clean and jerk, went right to the shoulders for the lunges.
They will get credit for a rep after every 5 repetitions that they complete on these reverse lunges. So at the 54 rep mark, that's when they will take off towards Mater Hill.
And this was the audible we called, folks, with this event so that the athletes didn't have to travel through space with a barbell racked on their body. They get an opportunity just to step back, step forward. It's a bit more controlled, and clearly we're battling against the slickness of the grass out there on the field.
Jeff Adler's not your leader. His reps are being counted one at a time. The reason they're doing that is because this scoring system was set up originally to count for the walking lunge. Roman Krennikov, Olsen, Fikowski, Vellner, they're all towards the front. And Krennikov and Vellner are going to be the first 2 men off, along with Fikowski and Noah Olsen. And this is big for Noah Olsen because he's in 10th place, but he still has a very realistic shot of putting himself on the podium. But he's got to get some people between himself and Roman Krennikov. But he is towards the lead here is Noah Olsen. He's in the white shirt and red shorts. They'll get credit for 1 more rep. Once they get to the hill, another rep gets the bag to the top, and then 1 more rep coming back to the fat belt. So 3 reps here on this portion of the event. As Krennikov is in the lead, followed by Vellner, Fikowski, and Hopper right there. Here comes Jeff Adler in the gray tank top.
And we got all the men right now utilizing the same technique from the last heat, except Jason Hopper. He's choosing to keep his arms completely straight, put more of that pressure on his quads and his low back the whole time. The rest of the men are getting a touch of reprieve or rest by reducing the time under tension with that slight pull with their arms and biceps.
Krennikov looks to be the first man to the top, followed closely by Pat Vellner. Fikowski sits in third. Adler's starting to creep up on Fikowski, and Jason Hopper's in that race for third place in the heat as well. And Roman is just going to go ahead and hydroplane his way down the hill. Pat Vellner chooses to stay on his feet, and Vellner is now in the lead.
I love it, and Roman is literally laughing as he hops up. I mean, that was...
Olsen doing the same thing.
It's awesome. Laura said she didn't do it on purpose. It looked like both those guys did.
Roman Krennikov has managed to regain the lead here as he works his way back to the Fat Bells.
Now this is it, Sean. Did they find a rhythm, and did they create one? This is going to be the tell-all. They're going to get through these lunges. They're going to be unbroken. And now the question is, how do the latter 20 ground to overhead go for these athletes? We watched something unique from Roman, so let's keep our eye on that. He's using outside of the legs. He's touching the Fat Bells to the outside of his feet. Everyone else is going inside, and we'll see if that change in strategy creates an advantage for him.
4 scored reps here. At the 61 rep mark is when they will start those ground to overhead, and then we'll get back to 1 rep for 1 scored rep. There is Noah Olsen, who currently sits in 5th place in the heat. Red shorts. Krennikov puts the Fat Bells down. He'll get to work on his 20 ground to overhead.
Roman took approximately about 11 to 12 seconds there before he got a rep of the clean and jerks done. So not a long time, didn't really waste, didn't take his time to dry his hands or chalk.
Roman going on the outside here. We haven't seen this.
Right, yeah, and that was something that I mentioned earlier a couple times. And watch, I love how smooth it is for him. It's a transition. He starts narrow, touches the kettlebells or the Fat Bells, and then he steps laterally in order to set up for an appropriate push press overhead. He's looking smooth. He's actually linking bigger sets than we've seen any athlete do thus far in the event, both men and women.
Jason Hopper currently sits in 2nd place.
Now the advantage to what Roman's doing is it really does create a bit more of a stretch reflex. What I mean by that is his chest drops even lower towards the ground than a lot of these other athletes, but it does take out the muscles under your thighs, the adductors, which are already under a tremendous amount of fatigue from everything else, including the lunge that these athletes just did. I think this is a wise choice from Roman.
See the race to the podium in the bottom left-hand part of your screen. Pat Vellner with a 90-point lead, relatively safe to at least get a spot in the top 3. But Adler and Krennikov still have a ton of work to do because Jason Hopper, he's only 25 points back at Adler for 2nd place as Roman Krennikov is now done moving back to the bike for 30 final calories. Krennikov looking to pick up his 2nd event win of the competition. 9:04.75 seconds from Dallin Pepper is the time to beat, but anytime you get Roman Krennikov on a bike, that guy's going to be hard to catch.
See ya. See ya. I wish it on the back of his shirt, that's what it said. See you later. Because that's exactly what these athletes can be in store for. You're going to get head-to-head against Roman, and you're going to lose on an erg like this. He's got tremendous amount of mental fortitude, and he's got the power and capacity to go with it. So he's sitting there on that bike knowing that he's got it locked up for where he wants to finish.
Jason Hopper is now the 2nd man to the bike right next to Krennikov. Hopper in 2nd place. 81 reps is what they're going to hit here before they move to the bike. So Fikowski, Adler, and Vellner looking to be the next men to this final portion of the event, and it is going to be Brent Fikowski, followed by Travis Mayer. And now Vellner is moving up.
This is where it starts to get a little sticky. You see Hopper's body position change. He leans forward. He's picking up the pace tremendously. Roman's still keeping a high rate of RPMs, but he remains in a very consistent stature. This guy owns the Echo bike when it comes to posture.
That's Jeff Adler who made it to the bike. It was not Travis Mayer. Mayer now getting there as Krennikov is off. And Roman Krennikov is not going to win the event. That will go to Dallin Pepper. But that might be good enough for 2nd place and 95 points for Krennikov. Now Jason Hopper is off. Hopper will take 2nd place in the heat. Chandler Smith in the blue shirt. He's going to be the last man to the bike. Smith coming off that event win last night that moved him up to 6th place overall. He won the event with a lift of 605, and then he kept 610 pounds on the barbell and decided to put on a show for the crowd as Jeff Adler is across. Adler's going to take 3rd place. Vellner and Fikowski are in. I think Fikowski beat Vellner across, but not by much. A little more than a second or less than a second between Fikowski and Vellner. Travis Mayer is now your leader on the field. He's off, and Mayer is in.
BKG with 3 more calories to go. 4 more calories to go for Noah Olsen.
Noah Olsen, far side of the field, trying to get through this bike as Gudmundsson is off just ahead of him. And Bjorn Carl Gudmundsson beats Noah Olsen in that race. Chandler Smith, what an effort for him as he gets across. He was the last man to the bike, but manages to beat Jay Crouch across the finish. Dallin Pepper's going to get the event win.
Wow.
Roman Krenikov's going to take maybe 2nd place.
Great execution there by Dallin Pepper to be in Heat 1 and still take an event win. That is big time. And you know what? That's when it's like, oh man, I'd love to see Dallin and Roman go head to head at this and really get to see who would, because would that have pushed Roman just a touch more on the bike, or would he have done his transitions faster? All those things are things that you wonder, but that's, man, great execution by Dallin. Roman did exactly what he needed to do there to win that heat.
Well, assuming no one gets between Hopper and Adler, Roman Krenikov at worst is only going to trail Adler by 5 points now for 2nd place overall. Pat Vellner's lead is going to shrink, but he still is in good position on top of the overall standings.
Yeah, and when we look back at this particular event, Roman led pretty much the entire way until he decided to have a little fun instead of taking it so serious down the hill. Hey, I'm here to have a good time. I know what I'm here to do. Pat Vellner was like, nah, I'm seizing this opportunity. I'm going to stay on my feet and just run by. But Roman knew what he was doing. He paced this thing appropriately. He did something that none of the other competitors through the entire field, both men and women, have done, which is these clean and jerks outside of his legs. And it paid off for him. It allowed him to be efficient. And we knew that a lot of time was going to be spent on the Echo bike. And let me tell you, there's no one better in our sport on an Echo bike than Roman Krenikov on the men's side. And once he got there and was the first one there, he knew exactly what he needed to do to keep a pace to win. I don't know if he had Dallin Pepper's time in the back of his head, but if he did, Dallin Pepper put up a heck of a fight to keep the win for the event overall, but Roman got a heat win right there.
Heat win for Roman Krenikov. He'll take 2nd, so that's 95 points. Well, Pat Vellner is going to take 9th. So that 90-point lead is going to get much smaller, although Vellner will still be the overall leader. Jason Hopper is going to take 3rd, followed by Yella Hosta and Ricky Garrard. Send it down to Kiki Dixon.
Roman, you just picked up quite a lot of points for that leaderboard. We saw you coming down the hill, having a grand old time. Was it as fun as it looked?
Да, было весело. Лаура Хорвард мне сказала, говорит, поднимешься и обратно спускайся, говорит, как с горки. Я говорю, ты шутишь? Она говорит, нет, прям спускайся. Ну, я решил попробовать.
Yeah, it was thanks to Laura Horvath. It was a lot of fun. She told him right before the event, when you get up there, just go down like a kid, just slide. And he decided to try it. He's like, for real? He's like, yeah. And then he decided to give it a try, so it was fun. Thanks.
It certainly worked out. You just completed your 7th event. What's going to get a little bit more attention in recovery right now?
Покручу немного байк, поем, полежу, отдохну. В принципе, никакого секрета.
No secrets here. Everything is very simple. He's going to bike, he's going to eat, he's going to rest.
Keep it simple. Congratulations.
Thank you so much, guys.
Roman Krenikov wins his heat. He'll take 2nd place in the event, but it's Dallin Pepper who picks up the win, as we have yet to have a man win 2 events here at the Rogue Invitational. The Dallin Pepper looks to move his way up the overall standings. 2 events remain here, so stay with us, everybody. Be sure to go to roguefitness.com/invitational. Keep up with everything going on with the 2023 Rogue Invitational. Stay with us as our coverage continues here from Round Rock, Texas, and Dell Diamond Stadium.